Welcome everyone to the Tethys Shipyards. I am Takeshi Yamato, the Yardmaster, joining our host, the Housecoat Gamer.
Yo.
Yes, Ron is giddy because today we are covering the Low Altitude Assault Transport, otherwise known as the LAAT.
The LAAT, or LART, as some Cologne troopers refer to it very fondly as, served throughout the war in two configurations. The LAAT-I, as seen here, and the LAAT. I believe it's the LAAT-H. You mind looking that up for me? I know there's two variants. One that carries troops, one carries vehicles.
All right, let me see if I can find that on Wikipedia. Otherwise, I can look at one of my wars books.
Regardless, while he's looking that up, I can tell you the origins of this glorious little craft, which, ironically enough, are not World War II, to its immense benefit. For you see, this aircraft is actually based on two Soviet planes. Well, two Soviet helicopters. For the most part, the entire thing is based off of the Mil Design Bureau Mi-24 Hind, specifically the Hind D variant.
Okay, it's not the LAAT-H, it's the LAAT-C. Low Altitude Assault Transport Carrier.
This is true. Regardless, the other half is another Mil aircraft. Ironically, the one the Hind was developed from, the Mi-8 HIP. Though both of those aircraft could be used in the assault role, quite similar to how UH-1 Iroquois were converted into assault craft during the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Which is rather fitting because the Star Wars saga is essentially a giant Vietnam War movie trilogy.
Yeah.
Regardless, the LAAT combines the HIP's carrying capacity, at least 2 squads worth, in a massive cavernous, infantry compartment.
With the Hind's bevy of guns.
And oh boy, does it have guns up the rear end.
Yep. 2 heavy blaster cannons in the front. 2 concussion missile launchers on the top at the base of the wings. And at the tips of the wings and in those balls, beam cannons.
Which only proves the superiority of consistent beam weaponry.
Yeah.
Oh sure, bolts are cool. But what's better? A single bolt that you have to lead to the target, or a consistent beam that all you have to do is just point and it dies.
Yeah. So, yeah. This thing has guns. And lots of guns. And yeah, it can definitely carry a lot of troops into battle as well.
Yes, much like the Hind in the Soviet-Afghan War. And the HIP during the Soviet-Afghan War. And the recent debacle in Ukraine, though I'm going to be blunt about that. The Hind isn't doing so well there.
Yeah, the Hind, yeah, honestly, Russia ain't doing so well there.
Well, that's more due to their doctrine than much anything else. That
Yeah,
and the avionics.
yeah, and honestly, if they were, if they were smart, they would back out. But they're not smart.
Sure, they came up with probably one of the most badass helicopter designs ever, to the point where George Lucas basically went, how do I turn... I'm gonna turn that thing into something generally cool. Let's be honest, the LAAT is cool. And functional.
Yeah.
Bonus.
But they definitely do not have much in the way of tactical smarts. And, well, they also have... they also have major issues with... and basically... My assumption is, from what I've heard from various sources, they are basically engaging in a major sunk cost fallacy right now.
Well, regardless, before we get into the geopolitical situation of the real world, the LAAT-I has... the LAAT-C is basically this thing minus a troop capacity. So we can modify it into a carrier for anything up to, say, an ATTE.
Yeah.
Regardless, the LAAT suffered a single betrayal by guess who?
Tarkin.
Hey, let's
drop these. Let's drop these useful craft for much more intimidating vehicles.
Something to be said for proven technology, and the LAAT is proven.
Yeah. So even if the Empire didn't use them, they would still be used in the Galactic Civil War era. Just by the other side. Because if the Empire wasn't going to use them, the Alliance could certainly pick them up.
Which kind of pisses off. They just reject a good, useful craft. I mean, seriously. This thing is very deadly and carries 4 of the most dangerous weapons I can imagine. A single one of those consistent beam weapons? Whew. Say goodbye to an entire armored regiment within seconds.
Yeah.
And E.C. Henry actually developed an imperialized version of this thing, which combined the elements of the C and the I into basically a god mode machine. Again, we blame Tarkin for his idiocy.
Yeah.
Also, as a fun fact, this thing can actually perform decently in space. It's by no means a true dogfighter, but
it is at the very least a good orbit-to-surface dropship.
And probably a pretty good bomber. Again, consistent beam weaponry.
Yeah.
So let's stat this thing.
Yep. Entered service date 22 BBY, because it started service at the start of the Clone Wars. Traits, systems values are comms 4, computers 5, engine 7, sensors 5, structure 6, weapons 7. We're going by runabout rules here. For department values, it has 2 points in con and 2 points in security. And it has it's a scale 2 vehicle with resistance 2, power 4, armor 4. It has heavy blaster cannons, beam cannons, and concussion missiles. The beam cannons basically have one less challenge die than the heavy blaster cannons, but extend out to medium range, just like the concussion missiles.
I'm right behind you.
And for talents, it has fast targeting systems and improved reaction control system.
Let's move it, boys. Will do, sir.
And for descriptor traits, Galactic Republic ground vehicle.
Great shot, sir.
I wouldn't call it a ground vehicle, but it's primarily used during ground combat. So
Yeah.
All batteries return fire.
Yeah, well, ground vehicle.
Unit destroyed.
Well, I'll put ground vehicle in quote
Will do, sir.
marks.
Too heavy.
that's the LAAT, and I love it. I mean, just look at this thing.
Unit destroyed.
It screams, I'm going to kill you,
With the general.
and I'm going to do it very efficiently. To the point
Yeah.
where the Separatists went, we need a clone of this
Copy
thing.
that, sir.
And they did
Let's
clone
move
it.
boys.
How
Yeah.
effectively they cloned it is completely and totally up for debate, but
Vehicle cancelled.
it is still glorious. And it is one
Yeah.
of the few Star Wars vehicles I have absolutely no problems with.
Status report. Acknowledged, General.
That says something.
Yeah, that says a lot.
Regardless, that's all of the major Republic craft. We may do the AT-AT at some point, because we won't have much choice.
Yep.
Keep blasting.
And we might cover some other stuff as well, but next up we cover the Separatists.
No sign of any more droids.
And
Tethys
that's
sent reinforcements.
going to be nuts.
It's also going to drive me insane, for one simple reason. So many screwed up designations! Bye-bye.